Good evening. It is 6:30 and I am calling this regular meeting to order. We will begin by a roll call for attendance. I will say each board member's name, and if present, they will say present. Director Gregory?
Present.
Director Song?
Present.
Director Clark?
Present.
Vice President Cook is,
Present.
thank you. Vice President Cook is joining us via live stream, and then I am present. Director Clark, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. This is a meeting of the Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We welcome the public's participation in this board meeting and thank those of you who have come to this meeting and those who are viewing via our live stream. The purpose of this board meeting is for the board to conduct its business in public. During the meeting, the board will listen to but not respond to comments from visitors. Whether made verbally in person, verbally on video, or written, comments are limited to a total of one per person per regular board meeting. One additional comment per person may be submitted for a public hearing topic if there is a public hearing on the agenda. All forms of public comment are subject to Chapter 4256 RCW Public Records Act. The public may comment at regular board meetings in a manner authorized by state law. All comments must adhere to Policy 1420 and Procedure 1420P. I'm just going to elaborate on that because we have several comments tonight. For decorum and order within our board meeting, we do ask that we don't cheer, we don't whistle, we don't clap. This is a board meeting, so we listen to the comments during the time that they have, and then we call the next commenter to come up. If you wish to make a comment to the board, comment forms are available for completion prior to the meeting and must be turned in no later than the beginning of the legislative report. No forms will be accepted once this report has begun. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. So we do still have some time now if people are still wanting to add comments. Our blue box is over here on our second table. Public comments will be heard after the agenda review. Students will be the first to speak on any topic during the student voice portion of the agenda, which takes place immediately following this opening. General public comments from non-students will be heard during preliminary communication from the audience. Any remaining comments, whether from students or non-students, will be heard at specific agenda items and during the final communication from the audience. Student comments will be heard first on any topic. Please state your first and last name prior to beginning your testimony. Abuse of public comments personally directed towards the board, staff, or students will not be tolerated. The use of specific names or personally identifiable information of board, staff, or students is not allowed. Board members or KSD staff members may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when not adhering to Procedure 1420P. All comments, whether verbal or written, must adhere to the standards of civility as defined in the Policy 1400 Meeting Conduct, Order of Business, and Quorum. If you're seated in an overflow room, there is a brief delay in the live stream audio. We will allow extra time for you to make your way to the board room after your name is called. Individuals with items for the board or superintendent must provide them directly to safety services staff, and they'll be by the back door. Approaching the dais during the board meeting is not allowed. Any items turned in will be provided to the board and superintendent following the meeting. Director Song, we are moving on to 1.06. Will you read our land acknowledgement, please?
We acknowledge we are gathered upon the ancestral lands of the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, who historically lived throughout the area between the Cascade Mountains and the Puget Sound.
Thank you, Director Song. We now move on to our agenda review. Superintendent Bella, are there any changes to the agenda?
President Margell, there are no changes to the agenda.
Is there
Approval of the agenda as printed.
Second.
a motion's been made and seconded? We are now open for discussion. Seeing as none, there's a motion on the floor to approve the agenda as printed. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 The motion passes 5-0. We now move to our student voice section.
President Margell, there are no students' comment cards at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll now move it to our preliminary communication from the audience. This will be for 30 minutes. If it goes beyond the 30 minutes, then we do move it to our end of the evening time.
These are for 701, and those are general.
Okay. So it looks like we have 2 in-person general comments. We
And-
do have,
One general video also.
great. We do have specific comments. Those will come at the beginning of the topic when we get to that topic. And then we also have a video for a specific topic. Okay. To begin our in-person general comments, we will start with, and I so apologize if I mispronounce your name. Please, when you start your testimony, just say your first and last name for me. Clifford Cawthorn?
Don't worry. It was actually very close, so it's perfectly fine. Hello, everyone. My name is Cliff Cawthon. I am a local Kent homeowner, teacher, albeit in another institution, and also, as you might remember, one of the candidates that was formerly vying to join you on the dais, as well as the former campaign co-chair of Kent for District. So, as you can tell, I've invested a lot of my heart into this community. So I really want to thank you for providing me with the opportunity to speak tonight, because right now in our country, I think we're at a very critical point, and what we do is going to provide a important example to our young people and really set the tone for their future. And originally, I actually want to start in a bit more of a dramatic fashion and quote Charlie Kirk. However, as I read on, many of his quotes were racist, homophobic, transphobic, degrading, inflammatory, and actively promoted harm, which would violate your rules and standards of civility, I'd reckon. So instead, I would like to invite you to reject the idea of lowering the flag at half-mast or doing any kind of honorific or formal recognition of that individual or his ilk. Don't take the bait. I, like many people, formally and very clearly reject political violence. That's not how we settle things in democracy. But right now, we see students and educators of color, LGBTQ students.
I'm
and
sorry,
people-
give me just one moment. Sir, we can't have you approaching the dais. We need you no further than, okay.
Sir, what is the boundary, may I ask?
Oh, John, come on, man. Anyway.
I'm so sorry. We will give you extra time for
Yeah,
this.
you're good. Sorry, that was more of a groan on my part. You guys are good? Ah, come on, bro.
Come on now. Let's go, move. Right.
They do record these things. You can get the footage off it, man. Like, it's a public meeting. It's recorded. Jesus.
Thank you very much.
Anyway.
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no,
Please
no,
continue.
you're perfectly fine. Anyway, long story short, you have multiple vulnerable groups under attack. In fact, earlier today I learned that there are Black and brown staff members that have been verbally assaulted with racial slurs. So I encourage all of you not to take the bait. Instead, to choose to actually take action on the values that I would like to think, as someone that lives and it works in this community, that we share the values of diversity, equity, excellence, and inclusion by rejecting hate and cultivating a culture of accountability, equity, and fairness. Like I said, it's not hard to denounce political violence while also not whitewashing a hate monger and a fascist, right? So please do not take the bait. Thank you for your courage. And again, please let us all set a good example for our students by making sure that we can emulate the values that we all share. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Everett Jenkins.
Hello, my name is Everett Jenkins, and I am a teacher here in the Kent School District. I have a prepared statement here, but like I said in the statement, I wasn't sure if I could be able to control my emotions in describing what took place. So what I decided to do was to write them out and provide some other details with that I would like to share with you. Is that something
You
I can do?
could provide to our safety services, and they will give it to us after the board meeting.
I believe it was last week, and again, like I said, I'm a teacher here in the district. I believe it was last week, maybe the week before. I was monitoring my classroom, and I noticed that a student was typing something inappropriately on the document that on his computer that he was creating. When I looked closer, the document had 18 different instances, he used the N-word. 18. On the last entry, he decided to use that towards me. Now, like I said, I've been a teacher for 36 years. I am, and primarily at the middle school level. I know there is no one here who can control what a middle school student would say or do. None of us can. But we can control how we respond to it. Earlier this year in my school, a student was caught smoking. He received 1 day in-school suspension, and that was it. The student in question that produced this document that you will see later received 2 days in-school suspension, and I think he can't attend activities for the semester. I don't know, it hit me as being very unequal. It didn't seem to me that we're talking apples to apples here. I was shocked. I was appalled, I was angered, and not happy about it, needless to say, okay? After reading this, if you feel as if the punishment was just, it was justified, then I think the school district should say, we think this is appropriate, this is the appropriate way to react to this. I'm hoping that's not the case, but again, something has to be done. In my opinion, students act in a manner in which we allow them to. What message is being sent by giving this person a slap on the wrist? What does it say to African-American students, staff members in our district, and in this community, and in our country? I think it's wrong. I think it's very wrong. And I'm here to share this information with you, and would love to hear what you would have to say about it at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you. One video, General. We do have one video. Ms. Curry, after you start playing the video, could you pause it for just a second to make sure that Mr. Cook can hear it? Mr. Cook, Director Cook, could you hear the video?
Yes, I can hear it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, board members. My public comment tonight is related to this evening's canceled work session. This is the third work session to be canceled in 2025 and the first of this school year. At this point in 2023, there have been a total of 21 work sessions held by the board. At this point in 2024, there were a total of 22. This year, there have only been 14, a 40% drop from each of the last 2 years. Now, I understand that some of you don't like to attend frequent board meetings, but consolidating meetings and canceling work sessions only works if you're actually covering the topics that you need to cover. So I'm going to list out a series of potential topics in no particular order that you could have covered tonight. 1. The superintendent evaluation. This is technically an executive session rather than a work session, but they oftentimes go together. KSD Public Records has confirmed multiple times to multiple people that the board has not completed the superintendent evaluation this year, which puts all of you in violation of Board Policy 1630, which requires an evaluation to be completed prior to the end of each contract year. You could have completed it today, but you chose not to. 2. Updates on TOP and iGrad. The entire purpose of the property purchases in 2023 was to stop paying a lease for iGrad. Since then, the board rejected the bid to renovate. iGrad enrollment has been capped due to a lack of resources, and the district has not presented any future plans for the program. Similarly, the top renovation approved by the board was described as a short-term solution, with no details on the long-term needs of the program. You could have been presented an update today, but you weren't. Number 3, the planned budget cuts. You plan to cut $7.5 million next year, but given that you couldn't decide how to cut even a couple $100,000 to save fifth grade camp, I'm assuming that it's not going to be as easy as previously stated. The board should be setting the parameters of how to cut the budget before the district comes up with a plan. Do we cut staff first? Do we cut arts? Do we cut capital outlay from the general fund and only use levy dollars? If you wait for the district to propose a solution, then you are potentially wasting a lot of effort from district staff. There should be an early presentation on the general direction so that you can correct it as needed. 4. Inclusive education updates. There have been an incredible number of public comments related to repeated failures within the IE department. OSBI complaints, lawsuits, broken policies, and illegal actions. I believe the board has asked for an update on IE in the past, so why hasn't it happened? 3 minutes is not enough time for me to list out all of the possible topics that are currently being ignored by the board. None of you were forced into this position. You're all here willingly. If you are unable or unwilling to put forth the necessary effort to oversee the district, then please just resign and let someone else take your place. But if you choose to stay, then do your job, put forth an effort, and start making a difference. Thank you.
We move on to our next section, which is 4.01, Kent School District CSEM Program Results. And I will call upon Superintendent Bella.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite up Mr. Dave Buzzard, who will begin the presentation, and also introduce any guests that might be here.
It's Curry. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to bring up our team from facilities. I'll bring up Kurt Anderson and his PSC team. We're going to talk and give a presentation on the Commercial Strategic Energy Management Program. This is something I think that we've really strived over the last few years to really look at the energy savings that we can make in the district by just doing a few simple things. So without further ado, I would like Kurt and his team to come up. He'll give a presentation, and they'll be here to answer questions at the end.
Good evening, President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vela, Ms. Curry. So thank you for this opportunity to make a presentation to you concerning the results of our 2023 through 2025 Commercial Energy Strategic Management Program. So let's just call it CSEM. There's too much to say there. So together, PSE and the Kent School District, we work together to try to find ways to save on overall on our targets and with incentives and meet energy savings objectives. So this evening, I have with me Mr. James Rowe. He's our energy management engineer. I get the privilege of meeting with him monthly and trying to find ways for us to save energy, reviewing any outliers, and working towards those goals. And then also I have with me is Ms. Laura Edmondson, and she is our resource conservation specialist, and she is actually a fellow with Climate Corp, and so which is being funded 100% through Puget Sound Energy, which we're very thankful for. And so she started on September 1. So, so as we look at this tonight, we're going to go through this presentation, and I'll ask James to give you the values of the program, and then we'll be able to go over our results.
Thank you, Kurt. Members of the board, it's a pleasure to speak before you tonight. PSE has managed a commercial SEM program for about 10 years, and it really focuses on low cost, no cost, operational changes to buildings and public outreach. We really strive to tune the building's operation. The air that we're breathing right now, that's a fairly comfortable temperature as a result of some sophisticated control systems. Our goal is to manage those systems as efficiently as possible and use data-driven analysis of energy use to come back and say, hey, there's an opportunity here. So within that program, it's been a pleasure to work with Kurt and now Laura, and to advance and go through another 3-year cycle in this. We've completed the most recent 3-year cycle. We'd like to talk through the results in that. and what some of the successes have been. And one thing Laura's going to also do, a component of CSEM is outreach. So we do want to engage with the students, with the staff, and identify opportunities for conservation, work with you for further work. I'm going to,
So I'll just introduce.
oh, go ahead.
So as James and I meet monthly, we review our strategies and we come up with many projects that we've been able to accomplish and which you've supported. Over the last 3 years, we've improved our gym lighting with LEDs. You actually have light in the gyms and they're not humming. And so we have our field lighting at KM and Kent Lake, and then also parking lot lighting. And as you can imagine, we're dreaming up many other type of projects to save money in the future. And so, but what's exciting about the savings that we're experiencing is it's accumulative. It's year over year savings. It's right off the expenses for Kent School District. So I'm happy about that. So I'm excited about what James is going to be able to share. I don't know statistics, but to share kind of the progress that we've been able to make over the last 3 years.
So one of the program goals is to achieve a 3% savings per year. It's definitely an aggressive goal. Occasionally we hit it, and there's some good news around that for this program year. For the previous 2 years, we had about, I'm going to say, 150,000 kilowatt hours and 20,000 therms of savings. This year, we've saved 1,370,000 kilowatt hours and 27,000 therms of natural gas. That's a pretty significant savings. It's the result of a lot of programs that have come to fruition, a lot of long-term tuning of building occupant loads and demands, and just working through lighting improvements. So all of those have been a steady, consistent, and very valuable result.
So as we look to our year-over-year energy avoidance, so we see in this slide that in 2022-23, let me just grab my numbers here real fast. In the first year of this last 3-year cycle, we were able to have energy cost avoidance of $27,000, and then also an incentive check came back to the district for $3,678. So then in 23-24, it kind of accumulates up, and we had $45,000 in avoided costs. That's just right off of our bills, right? We avoided paying those bills that much money every month in expense. And then that turned into a $5,585 in a check back to the district. So this year, as we've kind of said, in his last presentation there, it showed $271,000 just for the year, but cumulatively it shows $330,000 right off our energy bill in those, was it million therms? I mean,
1,400,000 kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hours,
30,000 therms of gas.
Yeah, so that's quite a savings. And that was achieved, like I said, through the lighting in both the high school and middle school gyms, baseball field upgrades, parking lot fixtures. Also, I think that the reboundering impacted the portable consumption of energy, because now the students are back into the classrooms and not in the portables as much, so we can put those on setbacks. Also, better system management through our energy management systems with set points and scheduling. So we're very pleased with those results. So then, yeah. So then, as we look at what are our goals, then our goals for our presentation, we are re-enrolling in the PSC program, of course. We strategically work diligently to work with PSC to be able to get this full 100% grant or scholarship for having our fellow with Laura. And Laura's goals this year will be doing a deep dive on our monthly energy consumption. She's also going to be creating energy dashboards so that we can be able to utilize all the systems available to us to be able to easily and quickly recognize cost outliers. Then she's also going to be working to proactively explore future grant and incentives for future projects, and then also promote green buildings engagement within the schools. We're also going to be looking at, in addition to that, building energy. We're going to be working with PSC. They're going to have boots on the ground in our schools. I mean, people that are going to be out from they're experts out doing analysis at our schools. Also, we're going to be working with education in the schools, working with capital planning in their projects. And one project that capital planning is engaging in is the FMX capital planner, which is going to be helping with energy consumption in the future. And then continue to pursue conservation projects and grants. So we have a lot of exciting things, a lot of work to get done. One thing that's been great is having Laura on board. We are really hitting the ground running, so that's been great. And so with that, are there any questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So it renews every 3 years and we get a new fellow each time. Is that welcome to the team? Do we get a new fellow every time or do they stay longer than the 3 years?
Well, the fellowship that we get through Climate Corp is something that we apply for and then we have. So over the whole time that we've been there, we used to have energy managers and since we don't have those anymore, now we haven't had a fellow until now.
Okay.
But of course, Laura will probably go on into great success.
Yeah.
And then we'll be able to reapply next year and have the support of PSC again to get another fellow to come and assist us. And
Yeah.
they have a tiered program for engagement. So like in the first, normally it would have been 75, then 50, then 25% participation each year. So we're working closely with PSC. I would love to have a fellow next year. It would be awesome.
No, I was just interested because it's investing, right?
Yeah.
It's educational. It may not be at the school district level, but it's educational and it's the next level, right? The people that come back into our community. The other question I have is, what are some recommendations that staff and students at a school can do to help conserve energy? Like, what's a tip? Like, I think back when there was a huge thing about conserving water and turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth, right?
Yeah.
You save water. Is there something about energy that is there like one thing that we could do? Like, just a key takeaway?
Wow. I think the biggest thing that is buying into engagement is the first step, right? And that's why it's so important that with Laura here, we're going to put out a survey to all the principals asking about where is their level of engagement in energy consumption in the schools. And then also, then from engagement becomes buy-in. And then as the teachers, staff, students have buy-in, whether it's a composting program or whatever, you have to have buy-in.
Right.
And that gains the momentum. Of course, it's easy. You know, don't put paper towels on the thermostat, right? I mean, those are the outliers, you know.
Right.
There's always little opportunities for savings.
But it's good to be curious, right?
Yes.
To get involved. What we're saying is get involved, be curious, and it may be different in each school, right? One school's going to do composting, another school's going to do recycling or whatever that looks like. So just be involved. Thank you.
And Laura's looking into, you know, in these deep dives, we're looking at not only electricity, gas, water. That's a huge one, water.
That's all my questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation. One thing that comes to mind as I'm reading this is I see a lot that's centered around conservation. Is there anything in the works or anything for future planning regarding production through the use of either retrofitting or utilizing our existing infrastructure and services to also produce energy?
That's a very good question. And as I said, for Laura to look at proactively at incentives and programs, every year when I go to the PSC annual meeting, it is exciting. It's eye-opening to see what's really coming around the corner with solar opportunities. There's many types of opportunities to engage in programs with PSC. Maybe James?
A couple of things come to mind right away. We have a community solar program, and we'll work with Kurt and Laura and identify opportunities. There's constraints around the building roof life, but for the most part, we have other districts that are engaging with it, and there's opportunities there, yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just thinking about like in Japan, the sidewalks generate power from people walking. We have children who are running up and down fields. It seems like we have this unlimited source of energy that we can really be sourcing from. So I'm just curious about what are some of the more aspirational things that might also be in consideration, because it's really exciting hearing about how we're going to future-proof and set up our district 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah.
That's every parent of a toddler wanting to harness the energy to be able to store that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Clark.
I just want to say thank you to Puget Sound Energy for investing the time and resources to make this work.
Director Cook?
I have no questions. I just wanted to also thank PSE for coming and assisting our district in finding ways that we can better the energy use and conservation that we are doing here in the Kent School District. So thank you very much for your assistance there.
My comment also, thank you very much for the presentation on the partnership, is we talk about getting better by 3% every year. But I'm looking at the year over year, and it's a stagnant amount. And so that to me says like the baseline is the same. And then so that 3% is that targeted savings is 850,000 kilowatts. Have we thought about, as we move into our next 3-year cycle of this, is so now we know that we can do it. We saved this much, making that the baseline, and then every year 3% reduction from that, and the next year even better. I mean, we think about that with our budget, and so why wouldn't we do that with our energy budget too?
Our program is actually set up so it is a year-over-year improvement. If you achieve 3% in the first year, you have to do better than that 3% to be incentivized for following years. So a couple of these numbers, they're individual years, and for the total avoided savings, we don't do the accounting for it, but the actual avoided savings is everything you saved in year 1, everything you saved in year 2. Those carry forward because you have bettered the energy performance in year 3. So yes, the program has also gone through some small changes in how we incentivize. The dollars are about the same, but we'll use the most recent year performance for our energy modeling and say, okay, yes, the baseline now is going to be 2024. And we've got 51 buildings in the portfolio. So the energy use that they currently have right now become the target, and we're looking to go 3% year over year from that. Yeah, ultimately, we're trying to get you to a 10% savings over a period of time.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I see no other questions from the board.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions, I would love to be able to present this year's incentive check that we were able to receive. And that's why I wanted to come tonight, because I was just so excited by what we've been able to achieve. And to my disheart, though, it's our new benchmark for the next 3-year program, so.
Oh, fantastic. Well, on behalf of Puget Sound Energy, we'd like to present this very big check for $76,000. That represents $56,000 in incentives and a $20,000 kicker, essentially, for meeting that target with the year 3 performance.
Well, we would love to take a picture with the board in that really big check, if you wouldn't mind. Would you join us in front of the dais?
Can I hold it?
Do you want to hold it?
Do you want to hold the check?
Andy's got Let's get them.
In the middle, he wants the middle sign.
Go for it. Keep going. Count three. 1, 2, 3. Take a couple more. 1, 2. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Cash it. Who signs the back? Proper endorsement required. Oh, it's right. You get to sign the back of it, sir. Yes. We'll go cash it.
You know when you watch like those lottery
I know,
winning
exactly.
photos?
Like, big check.
Well, thank you very much. And our next section has to live up to a $76,000 big check. And so now I call on Superintendent Vela for his board report.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you again to our PSE partners. I did mention that I was in the district and we had our energy focus, and I'm glad to see it. We're back on that and saving dollars. So thank you so much. This evening, I'd like to start with two noteworthy shout-outs, one for the Kent School District and one for one of our schools that I don't think you may know about, but I wanted to share. First, our district's general obligation bond rating has been raised by S&P Global to an A rating, reflecting our financial management and stability, as well as the continued progress we have made in the past 3 audited fiscal years. A rating. This rating supports our continued efforts to maintain fiscal responsibility while investing in student success. Wanted to make sure I reported that. Next, congratulations to Kentwood High School, who earned the prestigious Unified Champion School designation from the Special Olympics of Washington. They are receiving this distinguished status as a result of meeting 10 national standards of excellence in areas of inclusion, advocacy, and respect. Congratulations again to Kentwood, the community it serves, students, for their outstanding achievement. While we have continued to strengthen our bond rating, budgetary challenges remain. As we prepare for the official October 1 enrollment count, we're closely monitoring our numbers to assess potential impacts to our budget. The September enrollment count shows 23,202 students. Based on our 5-year history, enrollment grows by an average of 0.51% from September to October. Assuming the same trend, enrollment will grow to approximately 23,320 students by October 1. Projected enrollment is 24,222, which is a decline of roughly 202 students. We'll keep the board informed as we receive updated data and evaluate how it may affect district operations moving forward. Kent School District has received final Smarter Balanced Assessment ESPA data, as other districts have. Takes about this long to go ahead and make sure they scrub that data. It provides valuable insights into student performance and growth across English language arts, ELA, math, and science. In Kent School District, across all grade levels, 62% of students demonstrated foundational grade level knowledge and above in ELA, and 54% students in math. This was a slight overall decrease of about 2%. This results from the Washington Comprehensive Assessment of Science indicate an upward trend in student performance. That would be the Washington Comprehensive Assessment of Science. We remain committed to advancing student academic growth by leveraging assessment data to inform targeted instructional strategies, professional development, and system-wide initiatives designed to move the needle on achievement across all content areas. This week, I had the pleasure of visiting Ms. Saucedo's and Mr. Harris's 5th grade classes at Kent Elementary. That was on Tuesday this week. The classroom environment was engaging and student-centered with strong instructional practices on display. Students were prepared to ask questions about Kent School District and learned about parts of a book. What is a dedication page? What is a title page, etc. Thank you to Ms. Alcira and Mr. Harris, and especially our Kent students, Kent Elementary students, for welcoming me to their classrooms. On another note, Dr. Behringer and I attended the GenCap construction assembly at Scenic Hill this morning, and that was at Scenic Hill Elementary. For those of you who don't know, we have a multimedia project happening there right now, and the company has been excellent in working collaboratively with our staff and students there. They're going to be engaging our students in that whole process. We were able to see today student handprints in one of the concrete forms that were done, and the kids were just having a great time. I also had the opportunity to attend a successful fundraising event for Kent Youth and Family Services on Saturday, September 13th. Thank you to our KSD leadership team that attended, and thank you to President Mark Gale, who also attended. Among some of the other attendees were Mayor Ralph and Senator Tina Orwell. For those of you who don't know, Kent Youth and Family Services has been a partner for us for quite some time, over 50 years, and continues to do so. It was a great evening bringing together community partners to support youth programs and especially mental health services. We are grateful to their continued partnership and impact on our students and families in KSD. I invite you to attend the Kent Chamber of Commerce Gala scheduled for October 4th. This event is a great opportunity to connect with local leaders and celebrate with collaborative efforts that strengthen our schools and community. You can find more information on the Kent Chamber on our website or theirs. We will be hosting our first Community Connect Chat with the Superintendent meeting at Centro Rendu on Monday, October 27th from 5 to 6 p.m. You can find more information posted on our website. Last year, we were at 5 locations, great turnouts, wonderful. This year, we're really focusing on getting out to our different communities. So I look forward to listening to especially our Spanish-speaking families and listening to their hopes and dreams for their students in KSD. As we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, Kent School District honors the rich histories, cultures, and contributions of our Hispanic and Latino communities. This month is an opportunity to recognize the diverse voices that strengthen our schools and inspire our students. We remain committed to fostering an inclusive environment where every student and family feels seen and valued. And this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Vela. Our next section is the legislative update, and I just want to remind the audience that this is your last opportunity to put any comment cards if you'd like to speak during our open discussion in our blue box.
Located.
Yep, on the back table there in front of Ms. Antello. Seeing that nobody's running over there right now, I will call on Director Clark for our legislative report.
All right, this last weekend was, of course, the statewide meeting of ledge reps across all the school districts in the state. And the point of that is collecting information on various issues which get turned into resolutions, which are then brought back to this board where you will get and I'm going to say there were 30, whatever the number is, and you will choose 10, and then they will collect that data from all around the state, and those 10 are the primary directives to staff for legislative programs for next year. And for those of you that on the board that might consider being the ledge rep for next year, set aside the dates, the evening of January 9 and the all-day January 10, where once again, the various agencies, the superintendent and the Washington School Directors Association, will combine to create a joint legislative program. And that's my report.
Thank you very much, Director Clark. We now move on to section 7.01, titled Flag Protocol. We will start with our specific item speakers, and we have a few of them.
President Margot, we also have 2 videos, so whenever
Great.
that's appropriate.
Yep, we will do, and there's no student speakers identified in this group.
We do not.
Okay. We will start with Thomas Williams. Okay.
Thank you, members of the board. I'm going to read through this pretty quick.
1 second. So sorry, we have to get the timer. Right?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're great. Give us just one moment. We are still arranging everything.
Can I buy my time back? 3 minutes is tight.
I promise you, it hasn't started yet.
It hasn't started.
Okay, great. And if all of our speakers, just in case I mispronounce your name, if you could start with your first and last name would be great.
Sure.
Thank
My
you.
name is Tom Williams. I'm a former school teacher, and I'm a Vietnam vet. I worked for 35 years in the film and television media business and did a lot of marketing stuff. I regularly participate in the flag ceremonies here in Kent. I'm a part of the rifle team at Toma Cemetery, and I'm very aware of the symbology of our flag. This is not just a piece of material. This is a thing that talks to us about the rights and responsibilities we have as citizens, which you don't have in other places. I've been in over 30 countries, and I have found that in almost all those countries, even England now, you can go to jail for what you say. If that doesn't frighten people, I don't know what would. The idea that we have is an idea clear from the founders that we can say what we want. We can't yell fire in a crowded theater, but we can say what we want, our opinions. Whether Charlie Kirk is right or wrong, the important thing about this is whether or not we're teaching people that they have the right to free speech. And I'm very troubled by this because it seems to me that earlier people addressed it. Oh, Charlie Kirk, ho, ho, ho. Well, whether you believe in Charlie Kirk and what he has to say or not, whether you're a Christian or whether you're a conservative person like he is, or whether you hate it, it seems to me you should be there to defend it, because that's what the First Amendment is. It's about our defense of free speech. And this right here in the schools is where free speech begins. Now, Charlie Kirk had a candlelight vigils. NBC says tens of thousands in London, not here. We had vigils all over the country. We filled Westlake Park down here with people that thought that it was a wonderful thing that Charlie Kirk had lived. But yet here in this school district, one person, seemingly, has decided that we will not lower our flag to half-mast because we do not agree with this ideology. This flies directly in the face of free speech. And it is wrong in a deep and fundamental way that an organization devoted to educating children should be standing here saying we don't want a person to go and have a half flag because we don't agree with him. And this gets us into a whole other area. It seems to me that, well, how do we deal with this? Because once you do something like this, once you refuse to honor a person because you don't agree with him, and look at it where we are. I mean, the Democratic governor of Washington has said, well, we'll lower the flags. The city has said, well, we'll lower the flags. How come the school district, a school district I worked for one time, how come you folks have decided somewhere or another, I'm not going to come here and say, well, was it responsibility of this person, responsibility of that person? As far as I see it, as an outsider.
We do have to end your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
It was all your responsibility to do something about this.
Our next speaker is Benjamin Huff.
Thank you, board members and Kent community. For the record, I am Benjamin Huff. I am a current KSD employee, but I am also a lifelong Kent resident. My voice is not very special. I simply wanted to come here as a concerned citizen and to express just anxiety over a lot of the topics that are talked about here today. I understand that there are community members that are concerned that whether or not we followed through with policies enacted by federal government was followed through. I can understand where there may be anxiety for that. But I also understand that as a district, we are entitled as American citizens to the freedom of expression, whether or not it aligns with directives presented by the president. I see a lot of people with different opinions, and I want to respect all of them, whether or not they come from one side of the aisle or the other. I just wanted to say that I can appreciate the superintendent's decision to keep the flag raised while lowered for respect to a national tragedy such as 9/11. I do not believe that with the stated testimony presented by the superintendent that there was any disrespect intended to the recently deceased Charlie Kirk. But that said, if we are to discuss these policies moving forward, we need to do so in a civil manner that is representative of what we represent for our students. We can't just come in this with tight fists and rage. We set an example for our students. And I worry that if we come into this without any control, we set a bad example for the students. As somebody who has come through the Kent School District pipeline from Horizon to Cedar Heights to Kent Lake, I don't want the future of our students to be dictated by the policies and fears of adults. I want them to see a future where they can prosper. And if we don't take this seriously and act as the adults that we are setting a terrible example for our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Phil Schleil. Phil Schleil? Phil Schleil?
He's outside.
Okay, we'll give just a moment. We do put that in our protocol. If somebody's coming from one of our outside observation rooms, we'll give them a moment to step in. In the meantime, I'm going to call the next speaker, and then we'll call for his name again. William Graney.
Good evening. My name is Bill Graney. I'm a 33-year resident of Kent and a parent of 3 Kent School District graduates. I sent a written inquiry to the members of the board and the superintendent on September 15th about the district's decision to fly the United States flag at half-staff between September 12th and 14th in honor of Charlie Kirk. Having received no response, I sent a follow-up email on 19th September, for which I have received no response. I acknowledge that the district has the legal authority to decide when to and when not to lower and fly the USA flag at half-staff. The existence of that authority, however, is not the same as being correct or justified in exercising it. Laws give us discretion. Public trust demands transparency and reasoned explanation when discretion is used on matters that touch the entire Kent School District community, and in this case, our nation. I suspect that some members of the KSD board believe that as well, as a member of the board has been quoted in a news report as being concerned that the decision to not fly the flag at half-staff was made unilaterally by the superintendent without consultation with the school board. The district's public statement on the matter said in part, and I quote, "When a person has made public statements that conflict with the district's stated values of inclusivity, respect, and student safety, we may choose not to fly the flag at half-staff," end quote. I say if the district is going to withhold a nationally recognized gesture of mourning, withheld based on Charlie Kirk's statements, then our community deserves to know what those statements were, including the specific context in which they were made by Mr. Kirk and how they were evaluated by KSD leadership. Symbolic acts like lowering the flag are gestures of collective respect and not endorsements of every position reportedly held by the person being worn or honored. When federal leaders direct a half-staff observance, many citizens, including myself, expect local institutions to follow that shared recognition. Choosing otherwise without a promptly provided and clear explanation creates confusion and undermines confidence in our public institutions. I respectfully request three things: a substantive written response to my September 15th letter, explaining the factual basis and the process that was used to reach the decision not to lower the flag. 2, disclosure of the specific statements that the district relied on to determine the perceived conflict with district values, or a clear statement that no such statements were documented when the subject flag protocol decision was made. And 3, a commitment to clear communication protocols so that community members receive timely explanations when decisions affect shared civic symbols. I respect the difficult judgment that school leaders must make. I'm asking for accountability and communication. Transparency leads to public trust, allows respectful dialogue, and ensures that our schools model the civic values that we hope are being taught to our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the name again, Phil Schleil. Okay. We call it Ms. T.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tamara Lucretia. I go by Miss T. I'm a paraeducator at Mill Creek Middle School. Tonight many opinions will be shared. Some will argue we may or we must follow arbitrary rules. Following one narrative while failing to amplify or acknowledge others. That imbalance is not an accident. It is woven into the DNA of our structures. I want to be clear, this is my opinion, my take, and I know I'm speaking with those who share this perspective, as well as on behalf of those who are not yet ready or who do not yet feel safe to speak for themselves. To those who hold differing opinions, I respect that is your truth, but I do not have to co-sign on it. And I do not have to bring you into my feelings or my perspective. We can stand apart in belief without me carrying the burden of validating what I know causes harm. I support the district's decision. I support it as a Black woman who remembers how quickly HBCUs became the first target. We know the intent, and we see the diligence behind this choice. My words tonight are not directed at those who already understand this truth. They are for those who clutch their pearls, cast side eyes, and ignore the reality that the harm we face is not coming from the outside, it is rooted within. I respect the district's decision because it requires courage. True bravery is not easy, but in this context, it was necessary. When forces work to dismantle freedom of speech, the Constitution, the 13th and the 14th Amendments, all in the span of months, their intentions are plain. So no, we will not allow this behavior to continue. We will remain firm. We will remain brave, because that is what leadership demands, especially in our community as diverse as ours. 50 years ago, Kent was different. 50 years later, Kent reflects who we truly are today. And when voices rise that have long been silenced, you don't get to dictate the shape of that change. You get to choose whether you listen. In the end, this is not about convincing everyone. It is about standing firm
Sorry, we do have to end your 3 minutes.
Can you call the next person, please?
Marilyn Boxley?
I yield my time to Ms. T.
Thank you.
In the end, this is not about convincing everyone. It is about standing firm with those who know this truth and affirming that our future will be built on inclusion, acceptance, and belonging, not just for the dominant culture, but for all. I respect that others may see it differently, but I do not have to co-sign on their perspective. My commitment is to equity, and that is where I will remain. I also want to acknowledge that September 30th is Truth and Reconciliation Orange Shirt Day, where we are honoring and amplifying the children who were stolen from their families and forced to assimilate, loss of their culture, their language, their identity, and we will bring back an intersectionality and we will amplify these student voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Matthew Keloha. Thank you.
Aloha Kent School District Board. My name is Matt Kealoha. I'm a resident of Kent. I'm 38. I am of Native Hawaiian, Japanese American, and Filipino American heritage. I'm also a conservative. I moved here 10 years ago to start a new life and have new opportunities here in the great state of Washington. I am married and I have a young son who will be going to school here in a few years. I was extremely disappointed and angry at the Kent School District's decision not to lower the flag for the death of Charlie Kirk. I've been to your district site. I see the word equity as one of the core values of your district. So my question is, where is the equity for people where is the equity for people who are conservative in your district? I've listened to Charlie Kirk for years, and he has been an inspiration to me. And I'm certain if any of you actually watched a few of his videos, you would be struck in the same way. If you don't view his death as a tragedy and loss of a great American and an assault on the most important American value, I'll question your moral compass. His death and recent funeral has driven an interest in this content that I have never seen in my lifetime. He has billions of views from people all over the world. The truth about him is being revealed, and I think it would be wise to be on the right side of this issue, especially after your strong stance against it. Now I have a dilemma. Do I send my son to a school system that blatantly refuses to have respect for the people who I agree with? People that I want my son to be modeled after? Do I send him to a place where the ideas that I want to impress on him are going to be ignored and oppressed and then dressed up as hate speech? As a conservative in Washington, I've had to be careful of what I have to say about my beliefs in fear of becoming a pariah. I have never been one to speak up in the public square, but I can no longer be silent. I can no longer sit and watch the world turn into a place that will not be the most fertile environment for my son to become a young man. I implore you to do the right thing and apologize for this transgression. You refused a directive from the President of the United States and the Governor of Washington. You alienated your constituents who do not share your political views. You showed no bravery to stand up for what is right when a man was killed for simply arguing his viewpoints. This is all bad news. I cannot give my son to you with good conscience knowing that how you feel about your people. You were elected to serve all people, not just ones you agree with. This is not true leadership, and I am embarrassed that this is happening in my backyard. This decision has no soul, no aloha. It reeks of people trying to save their own skin instead of making the wise decision. And those are qualities I do not want for my children. So please, I hope you all take this opportunity to make this right decision now. Show us that you are good. That is what the definition of the aloha spirit is. Finding every opportunity every day to show how good you are to others, to strangers, to people who don't agree with you. What is love if it's only shown to people who are just like you? I can tell you it isn't love. It is hate, or at the very least, it is indifference.
Thank you very much.
Mahalo.
Our next, to follow our decorum, we're going to ask that there's not clapping, booing, any comments after our speakers. Our next speaker is Dawn Sherwood.
Good evening. My name is Don Sherwood. I live in Kent. I've heard many people call Charlie Kirk racist, fascist, homophobic, and more. He was anything but. He gave a voice to those who disagreed with him. Exactly what you guys are taking away. I encourage anyone who actually thinks he was these things to actually watch full videos of his campus visits, podcasts, and debates. He was a very religious man who left behind a wife and 2 small children. The hate directed at him and those who agreed with him has been horrific. So I personally have been called a racist, a Nazi, and all that from people that I know, that I no longer have as friends, just because I agreed with him. So I was kind of appalled when the flags at the schools within the Kent School District were not flown at half-staff. The flag at Horizon Elementary, where both of my children attend, miraculously just went missing. And that was during the time period where they should have been at half-staff. I then find that the superintendent made the decision for them not to be lowered. The position is supposed to be nonpartisan. This district claims to stand for equity, diversity, and inclusion, all the big buzzwords. So it's been shown that it stands for the exact opposite. He excluded every conservative, neutral person, and any other person who doesn't think like him. I sent out 27 emails regarding the disrespect shown to the flag and the people. I sent one to all of you, and I received 2 back. Thank you for those who did respond. I sent one to many of the other school district staffs, and no one felt the need to even respond. I feel there should be some kind of action taken against superintendent and any other district member who took part in the flag not being lowered. Lastly, the flag at Horizon Elementary does not even have a light shining on it at night. Flag etiquette obviously states that the flag should be flown or can be flown at night if it's illuminated. This district needs to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christy Powell. You have 3 minutes, so you can talk about anything you want. Just following decorum and Paul. I'm sorry, take that back. You get one, and it's supposed to be about, because I'm sorry, I was thinking that this was open comments. This is specifically about 7.01. It's about the flag. You get one speech per night. And so you can choose, if you'd like to wait till the end, and you can speak about the flag and anything else. This time is just about the flag. My apologies, I was at the different section. We will hold yours for open general comment. Neat Greenwall.
Hello, thank you everyone for having me tonight. My name is Neat Grewal. I am here to talk about something that's weighing heavy on a lot of hearts here in Kent. Recently, the school district chose not to lower the flags in honor of Charlie Kirk or victims of political violence. And what upset people the most wasn't just the act itself. It's the fact that this decision ignored orders from both a Republican president and a Democrat governor. This wasn't a partisan issue. It was about basic respect. And it wasn't a decision made together. Our superintendent made this call without input from his staff, without input from the school board, and without input from the families he's supposed to serve. That's radical leadership, one person imposing their will on an entire community. And that's not representative of democracy. Democracy means listening, it means consensus, and it means accountability. The truth is, this is an 80-20 issue. The vast majority of people, regardless of their politics, no matter what they believe that our country, when our country calls for respect, we show it. Lowering a flag isn't about who you voted for. It's a cultural act. It's how we honor loss and how we show compassion and how we teach our kids that every life has value. When we say a life shouldn't be honored just because we didn't agree with someone, we diminish the value of life itself. That's a slippery slope. That's a vigilante mindset. You don't have to like Charlie Kirk, and you don't even have to agree with him, but he was a victim of political violence, and that's the broader issue here. Political violence should not be excused or ignored. We can't start picking and choosing what lives that deserve respect and which do not. A life is a life, and respect, especially in our schools, should never be conditional. At the end of the day, this isn't just about flags. It's about what kind of community we are. Do we honor loss and stand together, or do we let division dictate our compassion? Our schools should be a place where dignity and fairness are modeled, where our children learn not just math and reading, but also how to respect others, even when we disagree. And I wanted us to think about that. What are we teaching our kids when we refuse to honor certain lives? What example are we setting for the next generation when politics matter more than our compassion? I'm not going to be bullied into silence on this. Respect for life, respect for our community, and respect for our children's future are too important to ignore. I believe Kent's better than this. I believe we can rise above the division. Let's protect the values that unite us. And there's enough talking about what was done was wrong or right and things like that. I want to know what we're going to do to rectify this situation. I stand here in front of you guys on behalf of people in the community that I've talked to, our neighbors, our friends, people in Kent School District, parents, and people that attend the school, and I ask you, what are you going to do about this? How are we going to come to a compromise? How are we going to come to a solution? And how are we going to remove the divisive issues and come to a resolution and see eye to eye? Because I don't want to sit here and just vent and rant. I want to come to a solution on behalf of our community, and so I want to come to that solution. I ask you guys today, what are we going to do about this? I won't be bullied into silence. I believe Kent's better than this. Let's make sure we come together. Thank you.
Thank you. I really don't want to have to do this. Again, our protocol is no clapping, no booing. If you continue to do so, we will have to ask you to leave. Our next speaker is Sally McDonough.
Sally McDonough, parent and former teacher and former Kent School District volunteer. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here for two reasons. First, to applaud Kent School District for following the law and not bending to the recently dictated flag lowering to honor, quoting Wikipedia, a right-wing political activist. While volunteering at Kent Lake High School, I witnessed the diversity of students, staff, and families. Don't know if the other speakers did. Superintendent Vila's legally sound decision on the flag issue sent your clear message of equity, excellence, and community. I personally saw in the classroom how Kent schools embrace diversity. Yes, the political activist was tragically murdered, but in June, so was a Democratic Minnesota House representative, her husband, and their dog. The current administration mandated no flag lowering to honor the service of this respected leader. Our family appreciates your decision to make a responsible, caring decision by not lowering the flag at Kent schools. Second point, our household was spammed last night via a cell phone text message encouraging people to attend tonight's meeting to honor the aforementioned right-wing political activist. The spam also noted there would be petitions to remove safeguards which currently ensure the voices be heard of the most vulnerable of our diverse population of Kent students. We have two sons who graduated from Kent Meridian High School. I volunteered there and at Horizon Elementary School. What I saw in each school were very caring and welcoming educators, staff, and families. I never saw behavior at any school which would indicate that Kent School District should have honored a person known for encouraging racism, misogyny, and homophobia. The spam text came from a person running for Kent Council, apparently not knowing it's a nonpartisan position. And her signs were outside tonight, I think illegally. I understand and admire Kent School District's decision on not lowering school flags. Thank you again, and I am sorry you received threats from right-wing folks. If you would like to see the spam text, I brought several copies. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am. Safety Services, could you please encourage those who are to step outside? Our next speaker is Carrie French.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Carrie French. I'm a 20-year veteran. I served under that flag that you refused to lower. I'm here tonight to express my concern over the decision to not lower the flag in our district from September 12th to the 14th, following the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. While I understand that Washington law does not require districts to comply with federal or gubernatorial flag lowering proclamations, I believe this decision missed a crucial opportunity, not just to honor a national figure, but all victims of political violence, but to model civic engagement and respect for civic debate. President Trump and Governor Ferguson both requested that the flags be lowered. Governor Ferguson asked that it be lowered in honor of all victims of political violence, including the representative. The bipartisan recognition should have signaled a moment for unity, not division. Instead, the district chose to interpret a symbolic protocol through a personal lens of equity, excellence, and community, and then use them to justify exclusion rather than inclusion. What troubles me most is that the decision was made unilaterally without consultation with the school board or broader community. That raises serious questions about governance and transparency. When symbolic gestures are filtered through a personal or political interpretation, we risk alienating students and families who may already feel unheard, like mine, conservative Christians. And when members of the community spoke out, they doubled down and tripled down with false claims that Mr. Kirk made statements that conflict with the values of inclusivity, respect, and safety. This leads me to believe that those who claim that he's a fascist, racist, hate-monger, white, right-wing activist have never listened to a full exchange between Mr. Kirk and these students. They are often highly edited, and they only affirm a confirmation bias. I would urge these people to do more research before making such inflammatory and potentially libelous remarks. But beyond the politics, this was a missed opportunity for a teachable moment. We could have used this time to talk with students about why flags are lowered, about how our country mourns, honors, and remembers, about how we navigate disagreement with dignity, and how political violence, including the reprehensible name-calling such as Nazi or fascist or racist, or any of the other words that I've heard tonight in regards to right-wing people like myself, should not be tolerated. Instead, we sent a message that some lives are worthy of recognition and others are not. We based on subjective values rather than shared civic principles. We send the message that when one disagrees with other, we just shut them down. Charlie Kirk actually said, without free speech, there is no such thing as truth. The moment you silence opposing voices, you destroy the foundation of democracy. The Kirk family deserves an apology. I urge the board to establish clear, consistent guidelines for flag protocol that reflect both legal discretion and community input. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Donnie Frey.
Donna Fry. Hi, my name is Donna Fry. I've lived in Kent for more than 35 years. I was a student athlete and graduated from the Kent School District, and I currently have 2 children enrolled. My first question is, why did the district choose not to lower the flag in response to an act of political violence? I'm not asking for press release or talking points. I really want to know why. I heard in the article that our superintendent cited our core values of equity, inclusion, excellence, and community. But what does equity mean here? By definition, equity means fairness, impartial justice, without bias, prejudice, or favoritism. Bob Ferguson's call to lower the flag for all victims of political violence, including Charlie Kirk, the Hortmans, and the Hoffmans, was both honorable and non-biased. Yet, we still didn't lower our flags. Why? The statute you cited addressing flags during school hours and the Pledge of Allegiance does not address half-staff orders. That makes it appear that the school district took a political stance without clear basis. So my second question is, what's the political stance of the Kent School District? The message I heard from this was, if somebody dies whose views are antithetical to your values, the flag will not be lowered. If that's the case, would the district refuse to lower the flag for a president like Donald Trump? Are conservatives excluded from this honor? You keep saying our core values, but who defines our? Kent's not a monolith. 35% of the voters here are conservative, and many non-conservatives also believe the flag should have been lowered. My son is a Mexican conservative. Does he not get to be represented by your core values? Does he not fit your definition of diversity, equity, and excellence? And finally, there's issues of accountability. If the superintendent can disregard the orders of the president, the governor, and this board, then in practice, he answers to nobody. That's unchecked authority, and that is troubling. So my fourth question is, where's the equity in the board? I believe the superintendent has shown he is unwilling to follow lawful directives, unwilling to represent the entire Kent community, and unwilling to remain accountable. I would ask that he would resign or the board move forward in removing him. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Zachary Stocko. Zachary, I'm going to ask you to state your last name for me.
Thank you, board and guests. My name is Zachary Stahoviak.
Thank you.
As a father of 3 KR graduates with 2 children still enrolled in KSD, I'd like to express my disappointment in the decision to not lower the flags following the murder of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in front of thousands of students. This is something that speaks directly to educational institutions and the students therein. It would seem, based on what I've heard tonight, that everybody has a different opinion about Charlie Kirk based on the social media feeds that the social media companies have decided to feed to them instead of actually doing research on their own. For me, this is not a political issue, but it is a two-sided one. There's a side of open dialogue, of unity, of debate, free speech, nonviolence, and supporting those in grief. Then there's the side of division, supporting the use of violence as a political tool, of censorship, and of turning away from the hurt felt by many. The KSD website states, in a response, we believe symbolic acts such as the lowering of flags should reflect the principles we work to instill in our students and community. I want my children and their teachers to be compassionate, caring, inclusive, and willing to hear and speak opposing opinions. Not to be dismissive because the person was not aligned closely enough with their own values and calling their values ours. The district chose to align with people that take joy in the death of a man at a school in front of students for having a different opinion and having the courage to say it aloud. I feel you chose poorly. Last I checked, your positions were nonpartisan. And while this community leans heavily one way, excluding the values of others, or of either side, only serves to prove the point that public schools are not a place for everyone. I request you set into rule that the flag lowerings be done, whether requested by the president or the governor, every time. Additionally, I suggest to the board that you give the opportunity to the community to affirm or replace Mr. Vela as the superintendent and begin the search for a replacement using a firm better suited to the task than last time. As a personal point, Mr. Vela, I chose you over the other candidates because you seemed the best. I regret that decision now.
Thank you, Mr. Stoviak. I believe that is our last speaker on this item. That's in person. We have 2 online speakers.
I would like to comment on
Oh.
the Kent School District's decision not to lower the flag. I thoroughly endorse what they have done based on my experience with knowledge of the flags and being in the military. I know that that is not the kind of event that should support lowering of the flag, and I appreciate your courage for not doing so. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daniel Smith, and my husband and I live in Kent. We don't have any school-aged kids or grandkids, but we do live here, and we appreciate living in a very diverse community that respects people of all kinds. And this is regarding the decision by the Kent School District to not fly flags at half-staff. I completely support that decision. While everybody can agree that political violence is horrendous, both the political violence that resulted in the assassination of Minnesota State Senator Melissa Horman and her husband, and the violence that resulted in the death of Charlie Kirk, which has not yet been determined to be political violence, but in any case, that kind of violence is horrendous. At the same time, I recognize the kind of person that Charlie Kirk was, the statements that he made against women's rights, against my community, the LGBTQ community, and just a whole slew of absolutely, in my opinion, horrendous statements. And I deplore the efforts of the current administration to kind of turn him into a saint. Flying the flags at half-staff should be done for national heroes, not for somebody like Charlie Kirk. So I am completely in support of the school district's decision not to fly the flags at half-staff. Thank you.
That's the end of our public comment. I am going to ask Director Cook, while you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind muting your microphone so we don't have the background noise. And then I'm going to call on Superintendent Bella to start us off.
Has it not
Thank
been
you, President.
muted? I apologize for that.
If it's not you, if it's been muted, I just can hear some type of background noise. It might just be because there's a lot of people in here.
There's another number that's on there.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, there's
Oh,
2
I see.
callers.
That was him. Okay. Do we have 2 callers on our live stream? Okay. If we could mute anybody who's not Director Cook. Okay, thank you. Superintendent Bella.
Yes, thank you, President Margell and members of the board. Before your discussion that you will partake in here for this agenda, I wanted to make sure that I again, as superintendent, shared with you that my decision regarding the recent flag protocol was indeed grounded in Kent School District's core values of equity, excellence, and community. Understanding the importance of communication and support. May I? In support, I followed up with 2 messages to our staff, one providing context for the decision, and another offering general support and guidance. These communications were intended to affirm our shared values and ensure our staff felt informed and supported during this time. I recognized this decision prompted a range of responses that were both positive and negative. I remain committed to fostering a respectful and inclusive environment for all members of our school community as I continue to serve our students and families with integrity as I've done for the past 25 years. Thank you.
We open up to the board for any comments.
I want to clarify a couple of things. I received mail from many people and they may be here in the audience, or they may not, or they may be online, that question whether I was a Christian, that question whether I had morals, that question whether I made this decision. So I want to be clear of a couple of things. Number one, the board did not make this decision. We were not consulted on the decision of flag lowering or flag protocols. We were not. That's why we're having the discussion this evening. So I want to be clear and clear up what's online that says that, the board, we did this, and it was none of us on this board made the decision. So that's the first thing I want to clarify for everybody. The second thing I want to clarify for everybody is in high school, I was in JROTC. First Sergeant Farias was my instructor, and I was on the national team that won for color guard at the Air Force Academy. In order to understand the flag protocols and flag understanding, and to earn that honor against people from West Point, Annapolis, the Air Force Academy, and other groups, we were drilled on what are the protocols, who can lower it, who can do this, who can do that. And one of the things that's very important in those rules is that we don't get to choose whether we honor the request or not because of who it's being honored for. That's one of the things that makes this nation great, that we have free speech, and that when it is requested to be lowered, then we should lower it. I'm also going to say that I understand both sides of this issue. I understand because I have watched Charlie Kirk's full presentations. I have dissected them and looked at them and had debates and dialogues with people about them. And my opinion about his viewpoint is that it can be decisive for people. Whether you sit on one side of the coin or the other, it can be very emotionally impactful for people and light people on fire. So I understand where everybody is sitting. I empathize with everyone, and I understand the importance of the flag.
Director Song?
Yeah, just to clarify, so for 7.1, we're talking about the flag protocol, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this is our time to discuss what our plans look like moving forward, and possible solutions, outcomes, and resolutions to future opportunities where a flag may be requested to be flown or not. Is that the intent?
I don't know if that was necessarily the intent.
Okay.
I think that the discussion needs to be made of, I'm going into my opinion on here. I'm reading through BoardDocs, and I've been doing this a lot, and I think all of us have the 22-inch binders at home, right, of all of our docs that we get to read. I didn't see anywhere where it says that that this is a board issue compared to an operational issue. And so I think that that's the discussion that we need to have as a board.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was looking for clarification on. So I guess given the events that happened, moving forward, I think that is something that the board does need to establish is some additional parameters around what does that protocol look like? And I guess where we start would be, one, are there any model policies that currently exist in any other school districts or through WASDA that we might be able to reference as inspiration or ideas on, first, how do we start drafting a protocol? I guess this is the question to the board and also the superintendent.
And so I guess I would leave this under, just for me, that what we do have under, there's distinct roles and responsibilities for each, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, looking at what the key functions of the board are the hiring and the evaluation of the superintendent, who is in charge of the operations of the district. And so we do have the ability to evaluate, hire, and fire for what we think is appropriate or inappropriate behavior from the superintendent. Once in that role, whom we hire, then they are responsible for the operational decisions. I've never heard of ever being asked, or any board being asked about a flag being raised, or, that would be a standstill for our district to have every operational decision come through a board. And so I guess if
I guess
that
that's
is
an
the
area that I'd like to
Yeah.
explore, is what would that
Yeah.
look like? Because one, absolutely, the superintendent is the one that's in charge of running the district and then setting those operational decisions. However, there are opportunities, as we're learning tonight, that some of those decisions may have been better suited if additional input was provided. But I guess, where do you draw that line? And then how are we going to decide on drawing that line moving forward in the future? Because I did see a lot of errors and missteps that I think could have been avoided, or at least for the simple fact that with the response from the public, a lot of the board members on here that are sitting up here tonight were caught off guard. And so in a way for us to also be able to respond appropriately to the community, what are some future-proofing steps that we can take to preventing something similar like this to happen again in the future?
And if I may,
Yeah.
just to say what's out there today, not saying that it's what we necessarily need to go forward, and we do have policy sessions on this, is that, and I am so sorry, I was reading this the other day, and now I'm trying to find the exact, and if anybody else, and thinking, Pam Holly, you're my expert on this one, is when there was a policy that is not clearly defined within, or there was a decision not clearly defined within the policy, then it's up to the superintendent to make the operational decision and to let the board know by the next board meeting. And that's what I read in our policy. So we do have a policy right now about that, and that is what I read. And my apologies, and I will interrupt when I find
No,
where it's
absolutely.
actually.
And this is, again, a time for us to dialogue about this. I'm not expecting that we're going to end tonight with any kind of answer or solution to it, but I think, if anything, starting this conversation is step one in figuring out what can we do to put in a remedy. I've struggled with this too, because thinking about operational definitions and then putting in specific nuances to when the superintendent would consult the board is where I found myself getting stuck. Because there's a lot of gray to it, and there's a lot of subjectivity. And so it's difficult to say the superintendent should be consulting with the school board if there's going to be anything that's going to be contradictory or anything that might be inflammatory, because inflammatory for who? And so I urge the board to also engage and kind of think about, what does that objective approach look like if we do decide to put in a protocol similar to the decision that was made about the flag.
And I did find what I read, if you don't mind if I interrupt you with this one. It's policy 1330, administration in the absence of policy or procedure. And I'm reading from the first sentence of the second paragraph. Whenever action in the absence of a specific policy has been taken by a staff member that creates a potential for controversy or a potential for the incurring of district financial obligation, or where the situation is likely to reoccur frequently, which I don't know if this would be one of those. Again, I think it's a question for us. Then such action will be brought to the attention of the board at its next regular meeting, which is why we're having this discussion here today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
even
so
the
I
term-
believe that it was followed the policy.
Yeah, and I read and skimmed some of that too. It's just the term controversy, again, is very subjective. And I think that's what's going to land us in situations like this in the future. And again, a decision like this is going to upset some parts of our community. And as a district, we do want to be equitable, and we want to be inclusive of all voices. And tonight we heard that clearly was not the case. And I think it'd be disingenuous of us to move forward without at least acknowledging that piece. But looking forward and looking ahead as a collaborative board and as a district, I'd like to just hear from other board members on what your guys' thoughts are about putting together a flag protocol or any kind of protocol on controversial topics.
I would like to see a protocol on controversial topics. In the case of the flag, I mean, we could have had a meeting or talked about kind of what our constituents would think or give different opinions about that. But I think also that goes with that is that when a decision is made, we educate students as to why we made that decision. So there's like a automatic conversation that happens. So it's not just we made this decision, we're gonna we are flying the flag at half-staff and we're just following what the governor told us to do, versus we're flying it at half-staff. Some people feel this way about it and some people feel another way about it, right? To have that dialogue.
Director Clark?
First of all, I want to thank the members of the public that took the time to come in and help us in a discussion of a difficult time. Clearly, the spectrum of speakers was all over the place. And sadly, that's just another statement of the polarization that's been taking place in American politics for well over 35 years. The point I would make at this point is no one wins with assassinations of people for political causes. That's just taking a step that doesn't even begin to deal with the very concept of freedom of speech, which is fundamental in our Bill of Rights. So I'm sorry to see the anguish, but as you have heard, I also believe this is an operational decision that the superintendent made, and he stated why, and so that's it for me.
Director Cook?
So I think many people have probably been able to surmise my opinion on this, but I'll say it again in public here. You know, I don't know if anyone else on this board has served our country. Myself, I have. I was deployed twice to combat zones. I'm a disabled veteran of the United States Air Force. And to me, I fought so that every single person could have their voice heard. I may be a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, I am, but I want every single voice heard. And that means whether I agree with them or not, and especially when I don't agree with them. And the fact that this was decided by a single person and without even consultation of a single board member in our board president or the board as a whole, when it's something as charged as this, and I don't believe that there was no understanding that this was a charged decision, that this decision itself would cause controversy. If not, if there was no understanding of that, that in itself to me is an issue, because it speaks to the division that Director Clark just spoke of, right? We should be making decisions to bring our community together. We should not be making decisions that drive us apart. And I may disagree wholeheartedly, and I do, with what Charlie Kirk said while he was alive. The respect for the dead to me is important. And it does not mean that I say that what they did was correct in their life, but it does mean that I say their life was not worth being snuffed out because of their words. No matter how abhorrent they may be to someone, that shouldn't come into play, in my opinion. And it does not mean that, you know, us doing that agrees with it. And I think our governor provided a way for us to go forward in a way that would make it so that we're not at each other's throats over something like this. And granted, not everyone agreed with that, and that's okay too. You know, part of being an American here, at least as far as I understand it, is being able to debate things. And when you take that away from your elected representatives here, I feel that's wrong. And I really do believe in democracy. I believe that having all 5 of us weigh in would have avoided this controversy. Do I know that it would have ended up in a different way? I don't. But at least then your representatives, our community's representatives, would be making that choice. And I think if we can do nothing but just say, if there's a directive from our governor, that we are going to honor that directive unless the board says otherwise. I think that's a fair compromise between saying that we have to answer every single operational question. That wouldn't be the case, because the vast majority of the time, we are going along with what our governor says. And because of that, I think that is where I draw the line. And, many of you may know, my own family was targeted to some extent. I had my own child contacted by someone via text messages. And I'm sorry, but that really upset me, and I couldn't get my head around the fact that all of the wording that had been put out by our district said we, or the district, or the administration. Nothing took ownership until I made a public plea through the press saying, we need this. We need someone to say, this is my decision. And I do not deny that our superintendent had the right to do so. I don't. His right is to do his work as needed. That doesn't mean that he made the right choice, and it doesn't mean he shouldn't have consulted our board first. And that is how I feel about the issue, and I don't know how the rest of my board feels, but I would like to hear any comments on what I had to say.
I struggle because our job as board members is not to provide direct oversight of daily operations of the school district. That's not our role. It's in the rules. I mean, that's what I read and everything. So I agree that when it is a directive that could potentially cause a problem, that we should be consulted. I agree with that. I mean, that's a fair, people have asked for that this evening. Do I think the decision that was made, I always tell people there's a thing called intention versus impact. So my intention is to be welcoming, warming, et cetera. My impact to an individual could be seen as opposite of that, right? My intention is to be representative of all people, and I'm looking at who this person is and how the devices that person is, and then I'm trying to make a general decision about all the people of Kent, and it's such a diverse group. So intention is I'm trying to honor what I think is the community. And the impact clearly is we have people that said, I'm not now represented by this. And how can you say that I'm not represented? So I understand the conflict in that. And so again, I think we could potentially look at how do we address things that come up in the future if something's going to be divisive like this, that we are consulted. And that way we can provide that community voice from our community and have a different perspective. We can all learn from that.
Yeah, I think what's coming to mind is just going back to the root cause of all of this was a deviation from a directive from additional government agencies, and maybe guiding our conversation towards a protocol, not just related to flags, but if we see that there's additional directives, say from the governor, from the president, those might be objective enough opportunities for the board to be an additional layer of filtration if the superintendent and the administration chooses to deviate from those directives. What does the other board members think?
Could I step on this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe that our policy actually already states this. I'm sorry, I keep on going back to the policy because I really do feel like that's where we should be rooted in. And I believe it's already there. I believe it's missing a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if I may, again, quoting, the superintendent and other staff whom administrative or supervisory authority have been delegated will be authorized to use their best judgment in the absence of a specific policy or procedure, providing that such action will not be in conflict with the general aims and objectives of the district or any local, state, national ordinance, statute, regulation, or directives. So I think that's where I'm commenting on my own here, where that's could be a question here. In the event that there is doubt at the appropriate course of action, or if it's apparent that the consequences could be serious, the staff member is expected to contact the superintendent or other administrator who could provide appropriate assistance. I think our rub becomes on this one is there is no, it doesn't say when the superintendent makes the decision, and there's not, and it may be different than the directive. So how this is written, I believe the superintendent followed the policy that we have today.
Yes.
I think that we do need to look and say, what that looks like if we do decide we need to have that. I also say we need to think about contracts. We need to think about what our policy is, and we need to say we can't just pick and choose when we're going to step in on administration and when we're not. When we hired administration to make administrative decisions, do we stick by them? And then what our course of action is in our role as the board is then to evaluate in the hiring and the firing of the superintendent. And so that is already set up for us. It is up to our superintendent to make those decisions, what is best and outside the bounds of what is said here. I still believe that that's what our role is, and we should not go down and start picking out little pieces of how we're going to overstep the bounds of what a board is, just as we wouldn't want the superintendent to overstep into what the board's role is. And so I feel that there's a delineation there and that it's already set up. That's my personal opinion.
And in my opinion on that, I don't think we need to change it. I think we are also administrators of this district. We do make administrative choices as far as policy is concerned. And in certain cases, there are things that are brought to us and we make the decision. Our superintendent brings them to us. We have multiple different issues that come up in that way, things that we end up in exempt session for or executive session for, and those things are expected to come to the board, and the board is making a decision for the district. So I think this statement exactly specifies that or other administrator. I think we are that other administrator, or at least could be in the case of a superintendent. We are the only people that are responsible for this district.
I'm going to push back on both of you guys. I don't think administrator is the right word, but also we do set policies that the district needs to enact. For example, we're working on a policy right now for technology usage in schools. In a way, I mean, we're still dictating and contributing to operational oversight that the superintendent then implements. I'm not seeing a distinction from those policies that we're writing versus a policy on when the board should be consulted for controversial topics or deviations from higher governmental administrations.
I have to say that the concept of board members being administrators is directly contrary to the language of the empowerment of the office. We are not here to deal with day-to-day operations. That's very specifically stated in the role of board members. We do have, obviously, an oversight responsibility because operations once in a while simply don't work because of a changing circumstance. And if we're going to do things differently, that falls to the board to listen to what staff and leadership has to say and then finalize a plan to address that specific issue or problem. So it's important that we don't micromanage. And I find that's the area that we're basically getting into. The fact is, the superintendent made a decision, but he did talk to the board president, and he did modify what he was doing by taking full responsibility himself. Now, at that point, that's an operational decision, and so that's been done. But the question that you're basically asking yourself is, should we write a policy to try and oversee? There's the problem. You're not going to oversee daily policy. And so the situation you're left with is, do you want to create a circumstance that is clear, or are you unfortunately in that giant mass of decisions that get made by elected representatives as they occur? because that's what happens in an election. In an election, you get candidates and they will tell you how they see things and what they would like to do. But the bottom line is, none of us can know what those people once in office are going to face because circumstances change. And so in effect, when you elect somebody, you're basically trusting that the character and what their record has said to this point in time will give guidance in what they use for their decision-making process. But the fact is, when you granted them that power, that's when that begins to take place. And so re-election is about judgment on whether these people have stated things fairly, openly, and directly, and whether they follow through. So you have to accept there's going to be turmoil along the way.
And I just want to clarify, I was not brought into the decision. It was after the fact when there was controversy. I had an open discussion and wanted to just make sure that when the statement came out that there was clarification in the statement. It was not, there was no special meeting. The board president was not brought into anything beforehand. So we are a board of 5. We do this all together.
Yeah, and again, disagreement doesn't have to mean division, right? We're not here to, I don't see it as micromanagement because part of our role is to set parameters and some boundaries. And I feel like, if anything, we are very accepting and opening and trusting of our superintendent to make these decisions. One example of success is that our district is one of the strongest in our state because we're not facing the same levels of, say, closures and the rate of downsizing at some other districts. However, in circumstances like this, I do feel like there can be room for dialogue and conversation about setting some additional protocols, especially when it comes to, again, the deviation from a request from our state governor. To me, that doesn't seem like micromanagement because that's not a regularly occurring operational task that we're going to be faced with. I don't foresee events like this happening on a consistent basis. And so due to the low frequency but then high severity of outcomes, we should be putting in some level of safeguards. If anything, as a response to hearing what our community had to say tonight, with their expression of feeling like we lost a large portion of our community for not feeling heard, for not being included, and for not feeling like the term equity applied to them.
If I may, I appreciate the open discussion that we're having here tonight. Because this is a discussion item, there's not anything for voting.
Yeah, right.
And so I think that we all have strong opinions and we could probably talk this for a very long time. We're also all elected officials. We can talk for a really long time. So if I may, propose a kind of a next step for us and see if that works. We do have it coming up in our policy discussions about the role of the superintendent. And I feel like that this is an appropriate place to have this. And in that moment, if we also, oh my, I told you I was going to take my jacket off 12 times. If we get to the place where we think that there's other policies that we need to have brought up, that we can also see what connected policies there may be that we can bring up then. Does that sound like an appropriate next step for us to move on to?
Yeah, I'm for that.
Okay. I can't remember exactly which policy session it is. I want to say it's in October, but it may be
October.
December. It is October.
October.
Okay.
Great. With that, are we at a place that we feel like we can move on to the next topic?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Give me just one moment. Okay, we move on to discussion and approval of 8.01 gifts, donations, and/or memorials acceptance.
Madam Chair, I move approval of Section 801, gifts and donations.
Second.
A motion's been made for approval of item 8.01, gifts, donations, and/or memorials acceptance. We are now open for discussion.
I would like to acknowledge some of the really wonderful gifts that have been given to various schools and associations. iGrad received from Allison and Joe Riley a cash amount of $524. Kent Ridge High School got from the American Red Cross $1,000 to support students in educational endeavors. Meridian Middle School got from their PTSA $3,785 for field trip transportation expenses, and Glen Ridge Elementary's PTO donated $6,500 for classroom educational support and experience. And that's a tremendous sacrifice on the part of those organizations, and thank you.
Nice job. With no further discussion, a motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 8.01, gifts, donations, and our memorials acceptance. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion to approve item number 802, second reading and approval of policy 1750, former member of the board.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of item 8.02, second reading and approval of policy 1750, former member of the board. We are now open for discussion.
I just had one comment on an additional edit to this that I didn't see reflected from the comment that I made last time. Instead of saying lifelong, is there a way that we can say lifelong annual renewal? Because one of the issues that we had was, what if something happens where this past board member is somebody who engages in some type of egregious or contradictory acts against the district? They may not be qualified to receive the pass. And so if they enter, get the pass lifelong, there's nothing in this policy that states that that could be revoked. And so is there a way to set any kind of...
So Director Song, could
Yes.
you repeat what your edit, and before you do, recall the board from the last policy session said, let's take it to, and if we had, I think it was Vice President Cook, had something else, we'd do it on the dais. And so I want to make clear what it is that you want for an edit. And then I see Director Clark also had a question, so please.
Before we, if I may, I hear what you're saying. Can we discuss this item first before we make you come up with the exact language?
Oh, yeah.
Is that okay? You want to start like writing it down, and then we'll get the
Look, it's
discussion
my
going?
bedtime, so sorry, I'm just rushing ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do discussion first.
And if I'm
Perfect.
also add, recall that first, second, third, fourth readings, this can also go back to October for reading. Then the board has a little more time. You can still have the discussion.
Yeah.
But we knew that when we were bringing
Yeah.
it here.
Yep.
Recall.
Okay, so discussion. Tim?
I've been around a long time in this district, and the athletic director for the district is always, of course, compiling all kinds of responsibilities as the various member districts compile the things that have to be managed, so referees, fields, scheduling, and all the rest of that. And the fact is, improvement of facilities is a decision within the respective school district. So in my time, I have been French Field was adopted before I got into that arena, but the lighting of all the football fields and all the high school stands, and then beginning to work on other fields such as the baseball and whatever. Football fields have the uniqueness by their size to be used for multiple different purposes. But lighting them at night is an expense, but that's what expands opportunities, including to our various partners that help us develop athletic capabilities, such as the cities of Covington and Kent and their Parks Department. So my point being is, those of us that have served for a particular period of time, I have a concern about watching the operations develop over time. So unfortunately, so far this year, I have not made it to French Field for one of our games simply because of a difficult schedule. But I will be going to Kent athletic contests well after I'm gone. And so it's just a way of saying thank you for making those possibilities and getting them expanded. If I had my way, every one of the girls' softball fields would in fact be artificial turf, but that's just me. The point being, I want them to have all-weather access, and those are investments, and people have to make the decisions when the sacrifice can be made to actually catch up on those things. That's just my opinion.
I did see the language added, not under formal investigation or facing removal from office, about the office. I hear your point. I really do. What I think is then we have to have a process by which we go through and decide who's worthy and who's not. And as we've already discussed tonight, when we start making things arbitrary, I think it's hard in what is that? The only thing that comes to mind, and I'm not advocating for this personally, I like it as it is. But my only suggestion, if we did do it, would be that they would have to apply for VIPs. And so that's it, because then if you don't pass VIPs, then you couldn't be in. And as I have been to Frenchfield, and I do use my pass, you have to sign in and you become like extra help. I don't know what's the word? Basic.
Volunteer?
You become a volunteer for the night, if so called upon. I have not been called upon. And so if they're doing that, then they might need to pass VIPs.
Okay.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah, no, this is not a hill I'm going to die on. I was just thinking as I was reading this, I'm like, oh, well, rather than having to reopen up policies and procedures again in the future, how do we just future-proof everything now by putting in any kind of additional language that allows revocation of these lifelong passes?
I feel like that's the problem that you have there is how often do you check it? Like, do we check it every year? Do we go through every single one that's done? And what is our metric? Do we need to come up with a whole matrices to figure out whether or not we approve it in perpetuity? Like, that feels like a big ask. And I feel like the point of the statement there saying not under formal investigation or facing removal from office, the fact that that's tied to when they are in office is kind of where our stance should stop, and I don't think we should be litigating or relitigating over and over and over people that have been board members and then maybe did something else in their life that caused them to be there. But I do agree with Director Margell, or President Margell, sorry, that would be a good way to handle that, because at that point, there's no question. If you can't pass VIPs, I feel like you probably shouldn't be at our events because VIPs is a pretty low bar. Now, we do allow anyone to attend those events, and we don't require VIPs for that. So I don't know if it's totally appropriate or not.
They can still attend. They just don't get in for free.
Yeah, and maybe that's where we draw the line.
That's right.
Again,
This
it's
was
not what
like
I'm
a
advocating
10 p.m.
for.
thought that I had
Okay.
reading this. But again, I also understand that this is only going to impact a very small percentage of people. But if the rest of the board is okay, don't.
And I'm fine with the way it is, honestly.
But I do like the VIPs idea.
Can we move this to a third reading?
Yes,
Sure.
I would say yes.
So Mr. Leonard, I believe they'll have to vote on this.
Yes.
Correct?
It has
And then-
been made.
Yeah,
Yep.
because you're on that. So-
Okay.
And then we would take it back for a third reading
Yes.
in October.
But could we just do that like at a regular meeting? We don't have to do that in like a work session setting or what have you? Because I feel like we're just adding one thing. Are we not? Or?
I think it would be whenever's next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the point of this, like litigating it all the way through again.
Yeah.
Like, we could just do it
Well,
in another
I'm
meeting.
very
if we need
passionate
to.
about this one, and I would love a third reading.
Okay.
Like a third reading.
Thank you, Director Song.
Seeing no further discussion, there's a motion on the floor for approval of item 8.02, second reading and approval of policy 1750, former member of the board. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. All those against, please raise your right hand and say nay. Nay. The motion fails 0-5. Okay, we now move to our consent agenda, item 9.0.
I move to approve items 9.01 through 9.07 as part of the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of consent agenda items 9.01 through 9.07. We are now open for discussion. Seeing as there is none, a motion's been made and seconded on the floor for approval of consent agenda items 9.01 through 9.07. All those in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Our informational items are there.
I do have a minor question on the informational.
Yep.
On 10.01, we had, earlier when Superintendent Bella was speaking to the enrollment numbers, he had said that there was a decrease of 202. Is that 202 versus what our numbers were last year, or is that 202 versus what our projected numbers should have been?
I believe I may have made a mistake on that.
Oh, okay.
202, I think it was 902.
902?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're down 902 students at this point.
From last year's numbers or from projections?
From the projections.
Okay. And what are,
And
do we
when
know what the
October
other?
1st is our count date, that's why I shared, we're
Okay.
continuing to monitor.
That may change. Do we know what the difference is between what we had last year and this year? Like, is it?
I believe we do, probably not right at this time,
Okay,
but yeah.
that's fine. We can look at it
Yep.
another time. I appreciate the answer for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Perfect. Okay. We now move to our final communication from the audience. And I'm going to do Christy Powell. I know I saw you waiting here for a while. It looks like she has left, okay? Dave Skipton. And Mr. Skipton, just to reiterate, please state your first and last name, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm Dave Skipton. I'm a parent of Kentwood graduates. I've been in the community for about 20 years, but I'm not a Kent resident. But I am the board president of the Kent International Festival Executive Board. And I'm here because I wanted to thank the Kent the Kent School Board and the school district for your participation and your support of the Kent International Festival. As you all know, we are one of the most diverse cities, one of the most diverse communities in the entire nation. And it's that diversity that gives us strength. That's what sets us apart. And I really wanted to appreciate all the things that have gone on, because our festival really depends and services the community of this, great place called Kent. And our whole purpose is to get to know each other, to become more of a community. And our partnership with the schools and the school board is something that we've wanted to have back. It went away for a while around COVID, but now it's back. It's back better than it's ever been, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that is the end of our communication from the audience. Again, I thank all of our members of the community that have come and spoke tonight, those who gave comments online, and those who are also watching both live and on our live stream. So we now move to 11.02, our board reports and discussion, and I will start with Director Gregory.
So I want to address a couple of things that have come into my inbox. The first one was financial, at our last board meeting, we had a public comment around financial concerns and comments that were made by the board. So I would like to address a couple of things that came up out of that. So we did build our 2025-26 budget based on the information available in May and June, and that's the guidance that we received from Washington State. And we were told at that time to include anticipated federal support year over year as level. So we would get the same funding for Title I, II, and III. That was what we budgeted for, and we did that. As of September 10th, 2025, a House panel has signaled plans to cut Title I funding for low-income schools by 26% in this upcoming budget fiscal year, which will start on October 1st. The other thing that's important to note on federal funding is that it's a grant-type program, so we spend the money on credit, and then we apply for the grant money, and then they release the funds to us. We do not have the funds in the bank. They are not there. We've been signaled that we are going to get them, but we actually don't have the paycheck. So when we spend that money, we're cashing checks that we may not be able to cash. I just want to point that out to clarify on how the funds do work. The other thing that I think is very important is we are currently working with our state partners, and we're ensuring timely and accurate accounting of this information. And as it changes, we're trying to be proactive. That is what I try to do in my role, is to be proactive. What is it signaling? What can we anticipate? And that we are planning for budget cuts before they actually happen. So we're not going into November going, oh, by the way, October 1st's budget was cut by 26%. I'm trying not to be a negative Nancy. What I'm trying to do is put us ahead, look ahead, and not be reactive to those decisions. And that we have a plan in place so we're not cutting things like other school districts around us. The other thing that I think is important is in this climate that we've had, especially around, we talked about tonight about flag protocols and other things that the district does or does not do. I want to be clear that communication is essential. And I also want to make sure that people understand that there are two official resources that all of us should be looking at for what's going on by the district. Why, thank you.
You're done.
My time is up. So there's two
Music's
things.
playing you out.
Yeah, music's playing me out tonight. The first two things is the Kent website, so our Kent School District website. That's the first place to go. The other one is, if you have not installed it, please install the One KSD app, and that has the current information. A lot of misinformation happened over the flag protocol that was discussed on several different Facebook groups that say KSD in them. They're discussion groups, et cetera. They have different names. The board and the Kent School District administration do not monitor those. We are not actively monitoring them or vetting them. And so a lot of, I think, misinformation was disseminated onto them from opinions from different people. And that then it came out that the board decided on this, which is not accurate. So I really encourage, anytime you see something online, check and verify, and to use your One KSD app or go to the Kent School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gregory. Director Song.
Has my timer started?
Yes, your timer's starting.
We're just going to start singing for you instead.
No, just wanted to end my board report with a message to the topic of tonight. I was trying to write down and capture my thoughts for what I wanted to say. There's a lot, but to keep it within the time frame. In moments like tonight, it's easy to focus on what divides us. Some of us may see the flag positioning decision as inspiring, while others may feel deeply opposed to it. But the truth is, our community is bigger than one viewpoint. What binds us together is our shared commitment to our schools, our children, and the future we want to build here. Let's not fall victim to sound bites, pictures taken out of context, messages filled with division. We won't always agree, but we can choose to listen with respect, to speak with integrity, and to remember that disagreement is not the end of our community. I'm also going back to the flag, I am disappointed with how the recent events developed. I'm also thankful to have had the opportunity to hear the community tonight and want the community to know that I will continue working with the board and the district to improving our support for all communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Song. Director Clark.
Unfortunately, I missed the last board meeting because I was ill. And I did want to give my report of the opening week of school when I visited a number of schools. And the joy that I felt in observing the kids were happy to be at school, and the professionalism of the classroom instructors that continue to work on inclusion clearly was paying dividends. They felt they were a part of something, and that's great.
Thank you, Director Clark. Vice President Cook.
So I think I made my point pretty clear as far as how I feel about the decisions made with the flag. But I do want to say what Andy said is spot on. 100%. The idea of us coming and being able to have these discussions in a civil way is the way forward. By doing this work in this way, we can move forward and bring our community together. And that's what I think is the most important piece if we take anything from this. Other than that, I also joined Director Clark for the legislative, the WASDA General Assembly, right?
Yeah.
So I did get a chance to join that. I actually went to the Issaquah School District because they hosted quite a few different board directors in person for those that wanted to be in person, and it was just wonderful. So I want to thank the Issaquah School District for hosting that, and taking care of all of that. It was really a great way for me to learn more about the legislative process that WASDA has. And it was honestly a lot of fun. So hopefully I'll be able to do a little bit more of that, regardless of whether or not I end up legislative rep or something else in the future. It's just something that I think is important to learn for me. And so that's been really good. Other than that, I hope everyone, now that things have kind of settled as far as the flag stuff goes, understands that this conversation isn't totally over. We are going to discuss more about how we move forward with these types of decisions, and I think that's the right way for us to handle it. And I hope that, as involved as you have been tonight, that you continue coming out to our meetings, continue telling us what your thoughts are. The only way that we can do better is when we are provided criticism so that we can take that in and make adjustments to the way that we handle things here. So thank you very much for taking the time and honestly for keeping it civil, because that is more important than anything in today's so divided world. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Cook. I am going to talk about some great things, keeping the focus on our students. And some of the great things I've seen this year so far is football games has been fantastic. And it's not just about the football. It is about seeing, even when you are down 76-6. It was a hard one. It was a hard one. You know what, though? Our players still played hard. Our cheerleaders were amazing and still supporting the team. Our dancers, 22-year state winning champions, were out there and fantastic. And our student section was full and dressed like minions. It was fantastic. And that's what it's about. It's about supporting your team even when you're down 76-6. And you know what? And coming back the next day. And that's hard. That's hard to do. It's hard to do as an adult because sometimes you don't win. And you still come back the next play. You still come back the next day. And I really just encourage that for all of us as adults. Let's learn from our kids who keep coming back. Our girls swim and dive team, I recognize them because most of the district, including our students, don't even realize that we have swim and dive teams. We do. They're fantastic. They're great to go see. And we don't even have a pool for them. And yet we still find a way to make it happen by renting out and finding facilities for them. We have 17, we don't have 17, probably 5 officials at a football game. We have 0 at our swim teams. They don't get a lot, and they do a lot of really hard work for all that they do. So our swim and dive teams, love them, and I encourage you to come out and watch them. And there's nothing like watching as somebody screams trying to try a new dive off the diving board and you're hoping they don't hit their head, but they tried something really scary that day. And just huge kudos to our swim and divers. Had a great time going to the Kent Youth and Family Services event with many representatives from the district. Such an amazing organization that has given for so long to our district. I could spend way too much time talking about all the different ways that they help so many in our community, and especially those in the district, and the positive impact that they've had on our district and just their longtime partnership. We are so thankful for you, and please, if you have a moment, go online, check them out. Fantastic organization, and appreciate all that they do. Last thing I would like to say is almost last thing, our bond rating. That meant something to me to hear tonight that our bond rating was raised. That means that we can put out bonds where we pay less interest out to people, and that saves us money as a district. I can also say, and this is an assumption, and I'm sure Raul would correct me if I'm wrong on this one, that has to do with many of different things, looking at the financial stability of our organization, but having our reserves at an appropriate level is something very much looked at. And so as we continue to go into budget discussions, and I know we've added many more for the remainder of the year, it's going to be the major topic of our upcoming board retreat. And so, yes, we are having twice as many budget discussions this year than we've ever had in the past. I very much want to think about what we have in our reserves, because that bond rating does make a big difference to the long-term longevity and financial stability of our organization. Last thing I would like to say is thank you to our students. You are the reason that we do this every day. You are the focus that we should always center ourselves on, and we just appreciate the work that you do, and may we all learn from the examples that you give. It is 8:56, and we are adjourned.